Hello, good morning. It's Monica from Life is Art, and this is the Saturday 10 a.m. technique at the Pet Parade online crop. And you can see I've got my camera up high. I'm just waiting for my video to come along so I can see whether we're centered or not. And we're going to be doing some scrapbooking today. Oh, yes, we're going to have to lower this down a little smidge. 1 second. Don't get seasick on me. Let's see how that does. The video is taking a long time to catch up to what's happening. So, one moment. If you're joining me live, just say hello or howdy so I know you're here. And if you're watching later on replay, you can say replay. Hi, Diane. Yes, if you come in when you get the notification from YouTube, you get the notification before I actually start the live. So it'll just be a minute later because what happens is I start the live and then I get the live set up and then I post the link in the Facebook event so that everybody can find us. And then I start after I've posted it. So it takes a minute from the time that it gets initiated in YouTube for the actual video to start. So if you're ever get the notification and then you notice that nothing's happening, that's what's happening. All right, sorry. So much jiggling and joggling, but I think we're going to have to go with what we've got right now. All right. Okay. Whew. It's like calisthenics getting the camera to cooperate. Hopefully y'all didn't get seasick jiggling around like that. So we have our camera up high. We've got 2 mats out on the table, and that means we're doing a double page layout. And if you noticed when you clicked in that the title said By Your Side Alternative. So you remember yesterday we were using the By Your Side kit, and then we created a couple of cards. Let me just rifle through here. I've got everything kind of jumbled up in here now, but we created a couple of gorgeous cards using the instructions from the By Your Side kit, and they come with a little bit alternative graphics. There's a different dog and a different cat that you can use. And so I've gone ahead and created a double page layout using some of the items from here because I decided I would make 6 of the 8 cards, and then I would use the bits and pieces that were left over to create a layout. So in actual fact, for this layout, I'm going to be using one of the card bases and one of the envelopes that matches it. And I'm going to be using the embellishments and icons and things as well. But I didn't actually end up using the other card base. So that means I can go ahead and make a 7th card. And I think that's super cool. So we only really used one card base and just some of the extra embellishments. So they always give you a little bit extra to make sure that if there's any mishaps or boo-boos, you're good. You still get your card made. Now I did add some additional items. I'm adding my base pages, which I'm using Old Olive, which is one of the coordinating colors. I'm also going to be using some black cardstock and a teeny tiny little bit of Cajun Craze cardstock. And Old Olive and Cajun Craze are both from the Regals collection. Regals? Yes, Regals collection. Hey Diane, nice to see you're watching, and Kim is here too. Good morning, Laura. And Heather. Yes, so the Facebook announcement I posted it at 10:01 and pinned it to the featured item. So yeah, sometimes it's not up there right before 10, but I can try to get as close as I can. sometimes you have to refresh your screen, and sometimes it actually does take like 5, 6, 10 minutes sometimes before everybody's systems get the update. So yeah. Hey Allison, nice to see you're watching. Good morning, good morning. Oh, you thought you sent a good morning already. Yeah, sometimes I have found with YouTube and Facebook, you send a message in and then it doesn't show up and you're like, what happened? And then you do it again and it works and you're like, okay, it's just a glitch. So I'm going to be using 2 pages of Old Olive. These are 12 by 12. And I'm actually sticking them down to my mat here so that I can line things up without having to worry about my base page moving around. So we're just going to go ahead and stick this down here. And then I'm coming in immediately with 2 pieces of black cardstock that have been cut to 12 inches by 7 inches. I'm going to go ahead and add some adhesive to these. So 12 inches by 7 inches. 1 for each side. There we go. And let me grab my take your pick tool so I can remove the backings. So I've got 1 of these for each side. 12 inches by 7 inches. If you've ever played along with us on one Saturday night every month, we do an event called Scrap It, Don't Stash It. And we roll the dice. And one of the things that we roll the dice for is a size of paper. And so sometimes we get really odd sizes like 7 by 12 and you know, 3 by 9 and you know, so it's just luck of the roll on that one. And I'm attaching these about 2.5 inches from the bottom. Well, not about 2.5 inches. I am attaching them at 2.5 inches up from the bottom, creating nice big panels. Now, I could have done black cardstock as my base and added strips of the Old Olive. I certainly could have done it, which probably would have saved me a whole sheet of Old Olive. But this is how I decided to do it. Anyway, so let's get started adding in some photos. Because this is being created out of something that featured animals, dogs and cats, I decided to finally get around to scrapbooking some photos that we took when my kids were younger. And these are photos from the Beaverton Crossroads Veterinary Clinic. A good friend of ours, Dr. Amy Gilbert, is a veterinarian at the Beaverton Crossroads Veterinary Clinic. So if you've ever been there, you might have met her in Ontario here. And so when they did a big renovation and expanded the veterinary clinic, they had an open house. And of course, my boys were just little then, and we got to go and tour through. And Dr. Amy gave them the personal tour and gave them a really good look at what happens in an animal clinic, which is kind of interesting for my kids because we've never had pets. My husband is allergic to all the furry things, and except for hamsters. And so so here they're actually standing on the scale that they use to weigh the large dogs. So that's why it says canine. And then, so there's Joshua, Justin and Joshua. And then they also got to see, they had some stuffed animals that were sort of participating in this open house. So there was a cat that was here and it had the mask on it for sedation and things like that. So they were asking Joshua looks a little concerned about the cat, I must say. So they were asking questions and things about the big light that they have over an operating table. So Dr. Amy was kind enough to answer the 7 bajillion questions that Justin inevitably has. There's a picture of the outside of the vet clinic, at least half of it. It's a lot longer than that. And then, of course, out beside the parking lot, they have a spot for you to take your pets who need to do their business. And so we took a picture of the little area there with the fire hydrant, and thought that was super cute. And so let's go grab some more photos, because this layout's going to have a lot of photos, because we had a lot of fun. And these aren't even all the photos we took, of course, because, you know, when you got little kids and they're exploring places they've never been, you need to take a lot of photos. So one thing that they were super fascinated by was the sink. And you know what fascinated them about the sink, besides the fact that there was a stuffed animal in there? But that it's foot pedal operated, right? It's in the operating room. And so the veterinarians have to use the foot pedals when they're scrubbing up. And so they got to play with the foot pedals, and that was super exciting as well. Actually, no, this was not the sink where they wash up. This is the sink where they wash the animals. That's why there's an animal there. There's another picture somewhere where they're actually using the one where the veterinarians scrub up. And then of course, we've got Dr. Amy showing how they look at x-rays, and how they determine sizes of things. And so that's there too. Then we've got this big stuffed puppy was up on the operating table getting checked out. So Justin had to go over and feel him to make sure he was actually a stuffed animal, and wasn't being harmed in any way. You know, just he was concerned. And then Joshua, look how tiny he is there by the examination table. He thought it was cool that it had a really like foamy mattress on it, and how different it looked from a regular doctor's office. And yeah, so let's just kind of get ourselves organized here. And then of course we have Dr. Amy. And so we're going to put her over here. And then, so this is a little bit jumbled over here, but don't worry, we're gonna sort ourselves out here in a second. I'm actually thinking I might switch those around like that. Yeah, that looks good. We've got lots of pictures of Dr. Amy happening over here. But what I kind of do when I put photos down on a layout is I kind of think about the direction that people are looking. So these guys were all kind of looking this way, other than Joshua, who was looking straight ahead. So I stuck him in the middle. Then Dr. Amy was facing this way. And in this picture, she's also facing this way, again, this way. So I put them this way. Now these two, the kids are actually facing away, but because there's still things before the edge, I think that's okay. I think that there's an end, and they're not going past the end. So we're good with that. Now, you notice there is a blank spot here, and one of the embellishments from the card was this cute little kitty cat. And on the card I made yesterday, you actually saw it placed on top of this punch out with the little hearts. And so I thought I would use that, but I needed something to make it a little bit bigger to fit in. These photos here on either end and across the bottom here are about almost 4x4s. They're like 3 7/8 inch square. And so I wanted to make this a little bit bigger. So I took the back of the card that we're using, and one side is white because that's the inside, but the back side has the lovely sort of basic beige color on it, or crumb cake. And so we're going to go ahead and layer these up like so. So we get something that kind of matches along with the sizes that are coming across here. Then we've got the two other larger photos up at the top on either side. And we're going to do a little something to kind of fill in any extra blank areas. So you'll see that happening in a minute. But let's get these photos stuck down while we're talking. So have you ever had the chance to tour through a veterinary clinic and kind of get the rundown of everything? Or if you have a pet, obviously you've probably been to a veterinary clinic at some point, except for maybe if you have an exotic pet. Those veterinarians are few and far between. This particular clinic is a small animal clinic, so that means they see pretty much just pets. And yeah, And then there's also large animal clinics, and those are the ones that deal more with farm animals and such. All right, so I'm going to stick this down a little bit in from the edge of my black cardstock, and then I'm actually going to go over to this side and stick down the outside one, and then we'll know how much spacing to leave when we stick the center one down. And I'm also leaving that top row until I have the bottom row stuck down, because I need to know how much this one is going to stick up. And I think that's kind of fun when you have some items that kind of go, oops, upside down, go outside the box, as it were. And of course, with this whole layout, we're kind of thinking outside the box, outside of our kit box, because we're not just following the instructions in the kit, we're doing a little off-roading. So let's add some adhesive onto these, like so, and on here, like so, and then we can start sticking these down. And we're going to leave a little gap around. I had originally not placed the black cardstock on this layout, and I was thinking, oh, my photos are going to just fill it right across the space. But then I decided to trim down my photos to allow for some of this outline in black, because I found having the photos right tucked up against each other, it was actually hard to look at the individual photos. It just seemed like a sea of things happening. And so by leaving that little bit, it doesn't have to be a lot, but that little bit of downtime, visual downtime in between the photos helps you actually focus on the individual photos. Okay, let's come over to this side. And again, we're going to start sticking things down. I'm going to just move those for now. We're going to add adhesives on the backs of these, like so. Now this side's going to be a little bit different, so we will do it a little different. All right, I'm going to stick on this piece of the card base first, and trying to keep the same kind of spacing that I had on the other side, like that. And then we're going to come in with the ruler, because I want to make sure that my other photos line up with this. And there's going to be some gap at the bottom, because these are all 3 7/8 photos, and these ones are not. They are 2 3/4. And so there's going to be a little height difference here, but don't worry, like I said, we're gonna do something to deal with that. So there we go. Now I can take the ruler away, because this one in the middle is just gonna kind of span the distance. For some reason it looks to me like I did that one really crooked. Yeah, it does kind of look crooked. The best laid plans. Let's see if we can fix it. Maybe we didn't stick it down too hard. Sometimes if you don't put too much pressure on it, you can have a chance to fix to mend your ways. There we go. Okay, now let's do the top row, and then we'll deal with the other elements that are going on here. So let's get these on. And this one on. And this one on. So many photos. That's the great thing about large 12 by 12 scrapbooking, is that you can go to town and add so many photos on these layouts. There we go. Oops, we don't want to put Dr. Amy upside down. There we go. And I'm trying to decide, do I want this one there? Because those two are very similar. I think I do. I think I do actually want that one there. So let's stick this one over here. Oops, we already got the backing on. Just need to take it off. Oops. It's sticking to me. We needed to stick to the page. There we go. Okay. Now, of course, our little kitty's going to go on here. We already know that. So let's go ahead and stick it on. I could pop it up with some dimensionals, but I'm not going to. So if you have a veterinarian that you regularly take an animal to, why don't you pop your veterinarian's name in the comments? Give a shout out to your veterinarian of choice. We had a bunch of veterinarians that would come to our farm because they all worked at the same large animal clinic. Alrighty. Now, what are we going to do about the gap down here? Well, what we're going to do about the gap down there is, you remember I said we were going to use this card base. So we used the back to create our little border around our kitty cat. And now we're going to use these edges here to fill in some gappy bits. So I've got this piece that I've cut. Let me just get some adhesive on here. And I've trimmed the center bit out. So I've just got the little strip of the Cajun craze and the strip of the plaid. And so what we're going to do is we're going to line this up here and go along the bottom of our photos like that. And then, of course, it's only a card base. So we've only got 5.5 inches to work with. So what do we do about that? Well, if you need to expand something, you cut it and then you pull it apart, right? That's how you expand something. But you got to fill in the space in between, because otherwise it just looks weird. So let's stick this down here like that. And then we're going to come in. You remember when we were making the cards, we had a beige like this, and it had a stitch circle and then a circle that we popped out. So we have all these extra circles that weren't being used. Good morning, Joanne. These weren't being used for the cards. They were just left over, and you could flip them over and use it as a white circle, or you could leave it on this side and use it as a crumb cake circle. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to use it as a crumb cake circle, and we're going to use it to fill in our gap. So we're just going to take it and we're going to stick it like that, tuck it up under our photo. And then we have this cute little kitty playing with a ball of string. That was one of the alternative images to go on the card. There were 2 different kitties, this one and the one playing with string. And then there were 2 different dogs. And I thought these were super cute because they were using the stuffed animals to be the patients during the tour. I'm just going to take a sip of water. 1 second. So if you have a pet, let me know in the comments what breed or animal of pet, kind of pet, species of pet, I don't know. What kind of pet do you have? Is it a cat? Is it a dog? Is it a flamingo? Let me know. When I was growing up, we had We had 3 different dogs over the years. The first one we got from the Humane Society, and its name was Sugar. So I've got the other half of the card, and again, I've chopped it in half or in pieces so that I can expand it to fill in some space. Gonna put some adhesive on here. And our first dog, Sugar, was just Heinz 57 type dog. I don't think there was any specific breed. And then we had friends who had tenants living in a house, and the tenants had left puppies behind. And so we, of course, went over and visited my friend, and apparently one of the puppies really loved me and had to come home with me. And so that was Button. And we had Button for quite a while. And then later on, we had another dog that my dad brought home, actually. And here's another one of those circles. We're going to just be using these circles as nice little gap fillers and embellishments. And that dog's name originally was King. That was the name it came with. And it was kind of a Darwin's grab bag of a dog. It didn't look like anything in particular. It had a head that didn't seem to match its collar, that didn't seem to match its body, that didn't match its tail. It was just, and it had very long, fluffy fur in places, but very short fur in other places, and different colors. And it was a really cool looking dog. But, there was really nothing telling you what kind of dog it was. And I'm going to trim this off a smidgen so I can tuck it down a little further because we've got some adhesive under there. So just going to do that and tuck it down in. And then I'm going to bring in one of the dogs from the card kit. Isn't that cute? A little guy, and he's got like all the big mustachy kind of fur around his face, and he's scrunched down like he's ready to pounce on his ball or getting ready to jump on something. And so our dog, and his name got changed very quickly from King, which didn't seem to suit him at all, to Duppy Roodles, because when he barked, he roodled. So he and he was very good. He would let you know when somebody drove in the driveway to the farm. He would stand up, give a stretch, kind of like this, and then he would go one time, and then he would lay back down and go to sleep. So he was like the warning system. Somebody has arrived. I've done my duty. Good night. All right, so let's grab another one of those circles. And I think for this one, I'll have to do a little trim job as well. Give it a little bit of a flat side. And add some adhesive. So, because we can't have just 2 circles when you're making little embellishment clustery type things, even if they're just as simple as a circle in an animal, you want to have sort of 3 of them. So let's go ahead. We're going to add another one of these down here. Let's see if we can tuck it under the edge of the cardstock, like so. Just shifted everything. And look at this guy. Oh my gosh. He looks like a dog who could roodle. Don't you just love my dog imitations? Alrighty. Hey, Mom. Nice to see you're watching. And Janet's here too. Janet says, growing up, they had birds, turtles, and a hamster. And now she has 2 sons and a husband. So she traded in the pets for people. All right, so let's add our little puppy there. I think he's kind of cute. Joshua was wearing a t-shirt with a dinosaur on it. I thought that was kind of cool. And I also kind of like how Justin's shirt, it was sort of an orange and a brown, and it seems to kind of blend in well with the oranges and browns that are kind of going on this card. So that really helped me choose my photos for this layout and also the theme, right? Obviously. Now, one of the things that was sort of left over from making all the cards was these little hearts that were popped out here. They had no home. So we're going to give them a home. we're going to add some little hearts here and there. So let's add a couple little hearts up there by our little stretchy dog. And then maybe we'll add a little heart there and a little heart there, like so. And we'll need to stick those down. So let me grab, I'll use the take your pick tool, and we're going to need a little bit of liquid glue for this task, I think. So this end has a little gummy tip that you can use to pick something up, and then you can add the little glue and then stick it down. Easy peasy. Always when you're using liquid glue, it takes a lot less glue than you think it's going to take. So don't flood your page. Don't be too generous. There we go. Now, if you're concerned because these ones only had one little heart each, it's okay, because the other thing that was included in this card kit was these fun gold sequins. So I thought we could use a little gold sequin on here as well. Let me see. Put one like that. And what else are we going to do? We've also got the little sentiment strips that were used for these. So I have this one, and I was thinking I could use it as a little journaling spot. So I was trying to decide where it would go. That wouldn't be a bad place over there, but I could also kind of include it as part of this little cluster of things that's happening over here, kind of to make an even amount on this side. So maybe that's what I'll do. I was trying to decide whether I would keep that or whether I should just turn it around and have it going that way. Or I could just take that off and dovetail both ends. Could do that as well. So, but I think maybe I will leave it like this and just stick it down like that. Just leave it as is. We mucked with everything else. We might as well leave one thing as is. But we're not done yet, because remember I said we were going to use, you know what, I'm going to add 2. I'm feeling luxurious. We're going to add 2 little gold hearts on that side. We're going to add something up here because we sort of ran out of borders from the card base. But remember, along with the card base, we had the envelope, and the envelope flap has the same pattern on it. So you know what I did? I totally did. I went ahead and I cut some strips to go on here from the envelope, but it was missing the orangey bit. So of course I just went into my stash of cardstock and grabbed some Cajun Craze, which is the same color, and we've gone ahead and cut a strip the same size. Let me just snip off the excess here. I was going to stick it down before I stuck down my photo, but of course I forgot. And so we're just going to add it on after the fact. I find with little strips of paper, the easiest thing is just to put a little bit of liquid or some other kind of adhesive right onto the base page and then stick it on in. So this one, I'm going to tuck the end under the photo like that and stick it in the glue and then give it a little shove till it lines up, or I can trim it off, either way. And then just stick that down. A little bit of glue that oozed. So we're just tidying that up. And then we can go ahead and stick down our envelope flap. Amazing, right? What the little bits and pieces can do. There's that. So I'm going to put the biggest piece here, like so. And then we had to cut some littler pieces sort of around the bits and pieces of the flap because there was a circle in the middle where you can, oops, I've got my little ends coming out there. Let me put it in the trash. We had some little bits and pieces around the flap, the circle on the flap where you could stamp a paw print. So I had to kind of take pieces from either side of that. So, you know, you make it work. Now I just need one more little piece here. Let's put some adhesive. Let's trim some of it off because we don't need all of it. But we'll leave enough to tuck under. This is what happens too when you're trying to craft with scrappy bits. And yeah, so you can kind of just manipulate them till you get what you need to create what you want. You know, we crafters, we get what we need eventually. So let me see. I think that's looking pretty good considering we created a whole double page layout using a couple pieces of 12 by 12 cardstock for our base. We added in a little bit of the black cardstock to create nice border matting around all of our photos. And then we used one card base, one envelope, and then the embellishments to create this layout. And I think it turned out pretty well. And there's also the stamp set. And it has the dog bones and the paws. So you could, of course, do lots of stamping with those. You could even create your own pattern paper with the paws and do it that way. But lots of ideas. So even though it's a card kit that came in a box that has all the things you need to make the cards, you can just make the cards, or you could get a little creative, think outside the box, and create yourself something else as an alternative. So I hope you guys enjoyed seeing this come together, and I hope you feel inspired to use what you have to create what you want. And yes, and I always love to see what you create. So if you kind of do something similar to this, where you take something that's not intended for one particular thing and you use it for something else, snap a photo of it and stick it in the comments so we can see what you created and be inspired by your art. All right, have a wonderful rest of your morning, and we will be back on for Chat and Craft at 11:30. We'll see you then. All right, toodaloo, bye.